Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports, joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's segment, we are going to do a preview of the United States versus Costa Rica in the Concacaf W Championship semi-final. But first, thanks everybody for joining us. Quick reminder, we're nominated for the Best Female Hosted Podcast category in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. And we appreciate whenever you all send us some support, join us on the live, like all our stuff, and engage on social media. So if you've enjoyed our show enough, please nominate us to advance to the final round. To nominate Attacking Third, you can go to podcastawards.com/app/sign up, toggle down to Female Hosted Podcast category, and go ahead and vote for us. It doesn't take long. Takes about 60 seconds. We've added a link in the episode description. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, you can find the QR code or use that to go ahead and vote for us as well. But we want to let you all know that apparently we've also been nominated for another award in the World Soccer Talk Best Podcast 2022 World Soccer Talk Awards. We are so excited. We were very pleasantly surprised. It was like a very nice, it was like a birthday gift, a little bit of a birthday surprise for us, because we're also ringing in our first year birthday here at Attacking Third. It's hard to believe that we've been doing this for a whole year. And so really nice birthday gift is you all can go and vote for us. We'd really appreciate that. So whether it's for the People's Choice Podcast Awards or for the World Soccer Talk Best Podcast Award as well, we really, really appreciate that. Lisa, how's it going? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Attacking Third. I can't believe it. Our little podcast baby is 1 whole year old. We were just talking about it the other day, how we were like designing the logo and picking the music and doing all these things. And it's crazy that it's been an entire year. We started it covering the Olympics, and now we're doing World Cup qualifiers. And the NWSL has had a full year and season under their belts, and now another half one. But I am good. I got some bright pink on my nails. Personally, I bought my wedding dress yesterday. So I am on a high in my personal life. And then I'm feeling it in the soccer world as well, because we got US playing tomorrow, Thursday night. We got NWSL this weekend. Then we got Concacaf Championship on Monday. It's like a whirlwind of events right now.
I love it. It's summer is turning out to be really, really nice. It's with the soccer is being cranked out. I'm sure folks are keeping an eye on us and keeping an eye on the Euros and everything else that's happening in this hour block of time. But we're going to focus on CONCACAF here. We've got semifinals to discuss. Yes, we're going to be previewing USA versus Costa Rica, but there's two semifinals that are taking place here. Group A, it's going to be US and Costa Rica. And then Group B, it's going to be Canada and Jamaica. It's an exciting time. Canada and Jamaica is going to be kicking off at 10 p.m. Eastern on Paramount Plus, and United States and Costa Rica will be kicking off at 7 p.m. Eastern on Paramount Plus. Lisa, it's here, the Final Four, so to speak.
The Final Four, yeah. I mean, 6 teams coming into this, the qualifiers, there's so much on the line. And heading into the last match day, right, like Canada knew, the United States knew that they had clinched, and then it came down to Jamaica, Haiti, and now Jamaica getting through in our group, in Group A, and Costa Rica getting through to the semifinal stage in Group B. There's a lot of emotions, right? There's so much precipice up until there's so much leading up to this precipice of the tournament, where now these teams understand what has gone into this. We've got to see a lot of good, different competition. I think everyone is still talking about Haiti, despite losing to Jamaica in the final round of group stages. I mean, that battle was insane between those two sides, and Jamaica coming out the stronger side. That's huge to see. Now Jamaica has qualified for their second World Cup in a row. Like, just fantastic things happening on that side of the ball and that side of the thing. And I'm so happy about CONCACAF and like how this federation has grown. And there's still a chance that another team could get through. They'll go to the Intercontinental Tournament. It continues. All of the CONCACAF continues, but now it's the semifinals. More is on the line. It's win or go home. All of these teams want to win this championship, and it all starts tomorrow on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm absolutely hyped about it. let's maybe talk a little bit, just show a little bit of quick love to Canada and Jamaica as well before we maybe kind of segue into full, Costa Rica, full United States, because we want to give we want to take a little bit of time to actually talk about Costa Rica and talk about the United States as well. But Canada and Jamaica, I think, going into this tournament, Lisa, there was a lot of talk about sort of the big teams to kind of keep an eye on in this match. And obviously there were, for a lot of folks, it was the United States, it was their tournament to lose. That's kind of the energy around that team. They have like 8 CONCACAF titles under their belt, and they're back-to-back winners of this tournament alone. So they were coming in here as reigning 2019 champions, and there's a lot of focus on them. But Canada also entering this tournament as Olympic gold medalists, have typically gone toe-to-toe with the United States as well. And then we've got Jamaica and Costa Rica. Costa Rica, advancing into this semifinal, have been a team that have qualified for the World Cup for a number of cycles now. And we've got the Jamaican women's national team showing that it's not, there's no sophomore slump here. They absolutely came to this qualifiers and punched their ticket to, their second World Cup. What are some other fun stuff we can hear about these teams?
Yes, Sandra, I love fun facts. So we get to talk about CONCACAF and everything that's kind of happened. Mine is a bit about the tournament in a whole. Some of my facts I have. There have been 12 games so far throughout the group stages. Now, as we head into the semifinal, and there has been 0 hat tricks. Not a single player has scored 3 goals in one match. And this could be the first time that has happened since 2006. So that's like pretty impressive. And I think that says a lot about the competition in CONCACAF and how it's developed and how defending has come down so much more into this. And it's a lot harder for players to score goals than maybe it was in the past. And that even goes to show that the average goals per game throughout this tournament is 2.83. And that's the lowest it has been since 2006. But again, it speaks to the growth of the game, because the biggest margin of victory so far in this tournament has been 6-0 compared to previous tournament. In 2018, the biggest gap was 12-0. Canada beat Cuba in that match. And now it's only 6-0, right? So I think that that's incredibly impressive defensively when you look at these CONCACAF sides, and that it is so much harder to score goals in CONCACAF now. And it's not everyone that's saying, yes, this is the United States tournament to win, and why aren't they winning 10-0? Because it's hard. It's incredibly hard to score goals. And this is the first time both of those things have happened since 2006. Holy cow.
No, I feel you on that 100%. And it's an important point that you bring up, because honestly, why is it happening? It's because of the opposition that they're facing. Don't come here. Don't come to attacking third and be disrespectful to the team, the 8 nations in this competition. There's energy still around this competition when folks are talking about or looking at the United States and they're saying, oh my God, they should be like obliterating these teams. And it's like, no, this is not CONCACAF, 1990s. This is not CONCACAF, early Y2K vibes. Like, no, this is 2022. CONCACAF is starting to turn a little bit, and there have been some challenges that have been presented to what's considered maybe the big 2 heavyweights, right? United States and Canada. And I think we started to see that in those final group stage a little bit. I mean, it took the United States until the 89th minute to find their breakthrough against a desperate Mexico team. And we're looking at Canada going against Panama. It took them an hour to sort of unlock what was being presented to them. So tough teams here in the CONCACAF region for sure.
Incredibly tough. And yeah, you mentioned like the Y2K, the 90s, those goal differentials were like 21-0 in single games. In 1991, it was 12-0, multiple games across the board. But there has been goal scorers, and I want to give Bunny Shaw, the Jamaican player, a little shout out, because she has passed Jody Brown for the all-time CONCACAF Women's Championship scorer for Jamaica. So she has 6 goals. Bunny Shaw, it was huge to see that. Also a little bit of goal scoring quickness. If we remember, Sophia Smith scored in the opening 5 minutes versus Jamaica, and that was the earliest goal of the tournament. But Jesse Fleming for Canada scored against Costa Rica in the 5th minute as well, and it was earlier than Sophia Smith. So Fleming beat out Sophia Smith by seconds, scoring the earliest goal of this tournament, and also Canada scoring the latest goal of this tournament against Trinidad and Tobago. It was the 91st minute, and then coming down to that, we saw the United States score in the 98 or in the 89th minute. So it was like the US is right on the bubble of scoring first and also scoring last in these tournaments. But I want to talk about the VAR of it all and how that has come into play in this tournament, because it's the first time that Concacaf is seeing VAR, and there have been 5 penalty kick goals so far, a number of attempts, but 5 goals. And that's the most PK goals in one tournament since 1994. Sandra, do you think that's due to VAR?
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to just put it all on this sort of, new taste of in-game technology. I think it has a little bit to do with it for sure. I'm not going to sit here and be like, no. It's because of form or skill or lack of thereof. I think it's maybe a little bit of a mix of both in something. But I do think VAR has absolutely, played its part. We'll just say it's played its part here in the tournament. I'm not going to say good, bad, or weird. It's the first time in CONCACAF Championship that it was integrated, and it's made its debut, and people have feelings about it, but it's been utilized with reason in this tournament.
Completely. And when you look at the officials, yes, there's VAR and they can check that, but the initial call is always made by the center official, and they sometimes have different vantage points, and different referees will call things a little bit differently just based on how they see it and the intentions. I know my dad was asking me about the foul against in an NWSL game, and asking about how is that a foul? How is that a PK when I didn't see it? And I was like, well, it all comes down to the officials on the field, and that plays over into this CONCACAF W Championship. However an official calls it on the field, then VAR has to go and overturn it, which is a lot harder to do, or just continue to make another call. So I've actually liked VAR being involved in this. I know they've talked a lot about on the broadcast not having that line, and Christina Uncle is a proponent of not having that offside line being in there. I agree, because like the difference between like a shoelace being off and on is frustrating when that happens. But overall, like I've liked the inclusion of VAR in this tournament because of player safety. Frankly, like that's something that I am always aware of and keen about, that I want these players to be safe. And if there's a reckless foul, I want there to be yellow or red potentially, because if a player could be injured due to that. Lots of penalty kicks throughout this one, lots of penalty kicks scored throughout this tournament, and perhaps more to come as these games elevate in intensity throughout the semifinal and final.
Yeah, for sure. I think if the question is posed a little bit more kind of, vague or more broad, like if would we rather have, VAR at all in this tournament or not? I think for me, like the answer is a very quick, like, yes, like I'd rather have this tournament with VAR than without. So it's been interesting to see its debut, and we'll see. Like this is where it's going to get, I think, where it's going to get most dramatic, right? In these knockout rounds, the level of intensity is going to just feel a bit different, I think, versus its utilization during the group stage. So we'll see how it looks like, what it looks like, if it makes its appearance or if it's necessary during this semifinal round. Let's talk about this semifinal matchup with Costa Rica and the United States. We're going to talk about the opposition first. We're going to absolutely shine light a little bit first on En Las Ticas. Let's talk about them and how they have been performing throughout this CONCACAF championship, and what they could present in the histories between these two teams specifically. They've actually faced each other in a similar scenario, Lisa. Last time they met was during an Olympic qualifying. So things that were restructured a bit going into 2022 and beyond for CONCACAF W. Obviously, this championship, this tournament has a little bit more implications in terms of qualification. It's not just going to be the World Cup. It's 4 teams clinching their spot, but there's the winner of the tournament also gets a direct spot to the Olympics, and the second place finisher, the loser of the final, essentially, and the third place winner of this tournament will compete at a later date for the other Olympic qualifying spot. And there's also the spot for the Gold Cup coming up in 2024 as well. So there's a little bit different implications, I think, if you are a team that finds themselves competing in this CONCACAF W Championship semifinal. There has to be this whole, you want to focus on the game in front of you 100%, but there's some other things at stake, I think, which makes which probably elevates, I think, perhaps the level of competition that we're going to see, because in 2020, when there was an Olympic qualifying tournament in groups broken down into 4-4 going against each other, Costa Rica and the United States closed out their group play, and it was a 6-0 scoreline between these two teams. And they had, I believe, if memory serves me correct, there was already like a 3-goal lead by the United States at halftime during that match against Costa Rica. So just a little bit of a different energy, I think, maybe looking at 2 years ago versus now, Lisa, because we talked a little bit, you gave the facts about this tournament and some of the things that we've been seeing between these teams. Obviously VAR, something that we want to pay attention to, but this matchup's going to look a little bit different. There were a certain amount of players that were part of that roster on the U.S. side of things going up against Costa Rica that are going to be unavailable for this one. The Costa Rican women's national team obviously is a team that has shown us that they've been sort of growing and evolving themselves throughout their time in CONCACAF. I feel like the captain of their team in Alvarez has had a really impressive showing so far.
Yeah,
this tournament, plays her club soccer with the Deportivo Saprissa, which is a huge club in Costa Rica, but has been captaining the team, has been rocking the armband for this team, right? I think folks who have maybe followed Costa Rica for a little bit are maybe used to seeing somebody like a Shirley Cruz wearing that, or even maybe somebody like a Rocky Rodriguez. But it's been very cool to sort of see this team putting together the performances that they've been putting during this CONCACAF championship.
It definitely is. And I think that when you talk about a player like Alvarado, that has stepped up in this tournament and wearing that armband, she's got a goal apiece in the Panama game and the Trinidad and Tobago match, 2 games in which Costa Rica shut out their opponents. And I think that's pretty important and crucial to talk about because they have. So 7 goals scored for Costa Rica across 3 matches, but they were shut out by Canada in their last match, and 4 goal scorers, and Alvarado getting a goal in each of those games, and then Granados having a brace versus Trinidad and Tobago. Otherwise, just singular players scoring goals. But in terms of Costa Rica and what they're doing throughout this tournament, I think something that they need to really focus on, and what I've been impressed with, but also game management and things like that. Because against Panama, in the opening 6 minutes, Costa Rica got on the board first, and they started this game quick and strong. They followed it up in the 24th minute, getting another goal. It was implementing their game against Panama quickly and really bringing the game to them, scoring in a variety of ways off a set piece. They ended up getting a PK in that game in the second half of that match around the hour mark, and that it will round out the 3 goals against Panama. Then against Trinidad and Tobago, they open the first 15 minutes. They get a goal, and I think around the 14th minute of this match, and end up getting a second one before halftime in the 44th minute. So in their first 2 matches of this group stages, Costa Rica scored. They were up 2-0 heading into halftime for both of those matches. I think that's really impressive to see against this Costa Rican side, because not only are they starting these games quick and getting goals, but they're also following it up with another one. Now, on the other side of that, against Canada in this last group stage match, Canada scored in the first 5 minutes against Costa Rica. So I think there's something that's got to be said about game management and the opening 10, 15 minutes of a match, especially in these types of environments. We've talked a little bit about how hot it is in Mexico. It's over 100 degrees at kickoff of these 7 o'clock Eastern, so it's 6 local games. And that's incredibly hot. Now for the later games kicking off at 9 o'clock local, the sun has gone down. It's a little bit cooler, but it's so crucial how these teams start the game, because as the 90 minutes goes on, there's only so much player rotation, and it comes down to minute management and game management, so much of it. So when we look at Costa Rica and now as they prepare to play against the United States, and you talked a little bit about the history between these two sides, this will be the 17th meeting, and the U.S. has won 16 of those. So there's a lot riding on this. Costa Rica is also looking to qualify for the Olympics, as is the United States. But Costa Rica is coming off of that match against Canada where they conceded in the first 5 minutes. And then they conceded another one around the 70th minute mark. I think that gives Costa Rica an advantage over the United States because they've scored in the first 5 minutes, in the first 15 minutes, and then they've also conceded. And most recently, they've conceded. So they can look back at that Canada match and say, how do we not concede in the first 5 minutes? Because this was the Olympic gold medalist, the reigning Olympic gold medalist in Canada. And now we're going up against the reigning world champions in the United States. And it's probably going to be a little bit tougher than that Canada match. So defensively, what do they need to do? And personally, I think that Costa Rica is going to sit back a little bit, have a little bit more density in their back line. But if they get that opportunity to go, they are off. They're going to move in transition, and that's how they're going to get their advantage, hands down.
I think it's important that you're bringing up the game management points for Costa Rica. Because I'm just you can't have we also bring up that stat, right? The fact that it's 16, to 16 matches out of 17 matches that the United States have come out on the winning side of these things. And I think it's important for Costa Rica to sort of look back on those games as the one specifically that you're talking about. But there's also, I do wonder, perhaps there's maybe a little bit of a blueprint here as well that Costa Rica can look at in this most recent matchup that the United States had against Mexico, where we're talking about holding them through to 89 minutes of a scoreless game. And this is an 89 minutes where they had a Lindsey Herrera on the pitch, where they had Andy Sullivan on the pitch, they had an Alex Morgan on the pitch. I'm just curious if this is something that they will try to piggyback in terms of when they're looking at the footage, or they're going over the tape from those games that they had during their Group B group stage, and then looking at what the United States has been not presenting themselves as a unit, but what they've been facing in terms of the other oppositions, what the oppositions have been presenting to the United States, like how they can sort of maybe pick and choose and find a way to better game plan for that. Yeah. But I'm not too sure. I think if this game starts out and Costa Rica fails to do that, with managing the game and concedes within the opening even 20 minutes, I'll say, of this game, I was going to say like 10 to 15, but even if they allow goal scoring in the opening 20 minutes of this game, I think that's going to be a tough day.
Yes.
The Costa Rican side. And it's unfortunate because this is a team that I've been impressed with over their duration of performances within the Concacaf qualifying process, because this is a team that we've been paying attention to, Lisa, for quite some time. Like obviously outside of these tournaments, but specifically in this calendar year, this was a team that we saw, run their group during the Concacaf qualifiers to get to this point, right? To get to this championship point. They had a ton of games in February and in April where they did not look like, they were going to be skipping a beat. I liked the fact that they had set up their preparation matches ahead of this tournament against Haiti. And those were some difficult matches for them to come out on top of. We're talking a narrow victory 2-1 against Haiti in their first friendly, and then a loss against Haiti in the second one. So it was just something for them I thought it was a good prep, because it's like these were the type of teams that you're going to be facing. You're potentially going to actually see Haiti in this tournament. It didn't end up breaking down that way. But a good opportunity, I think, during those June friendlies to try to get another final look at some of the, some of the energy that they might be facing in this tournament. But we're talking about a completely we're talking about a completely different beast, quite frankly, when you are getting ready to go up against the United States.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? It is a different beast.
Yeah.
Frankly, it is. And Costa Rica, they've seen this United States side a number of times before. You talked about it, the Olympic qualifying, World Cup qualifying, and there's a little bit more on the line, and it's a different stake because the United States is winning their games, but they're also not like dominating them. We also saw Ashley Hatch have to go back to the States from Monterrey, Mexico due to an injury. Costa Rica dealing with something incredibly similar. They had to make an injury replacement during this championship. Goalkeeper Priscilla Tapia, who had yet to see action throughout this tournament, she suffered a hand injury. So she had to return to Costa Rica or go back home. And she was replaced by 17-year-old goalkeeper Genesis Perez. So there's also that mental side of it for Costa Rica. I think about that in terms of the U.S., but now Costa Rica has to deal with it as well. Like personnel shift up. If that was your roommate, now your roommate's gone, you're going to get a new roommate. Like it's different to bring someone else into a roster that hasn't been there. Perez doesn't know what this team has went throughout the group stages. Now heading into the semifinal. But you talked about if Costa Rica can hold the United States scoreless in the first 20 minutes, the first 25 minutes, I think if they go back and watch the United States versus Mexico game, I think that's a great telling because Mexico held the U.S. scoreless until the 89th minute. But a lot of that came in the first half, the opportunity that Midge Purse got. But Mexico defensively did an incredible job, and Costa Rica can learn a lot from watching that match. And even watching against Haiti and Jamaica, how they were able to stifle the United States attack and keep it down a little bit and see how the United States, where their weakest points are, where they like to attack. And you can learn a lot from watching those games. But I think specifically against the United States versus Mexico in that game, Costa Rica can learn a lot about defensively, how it's got to be against the United States, and it's got to be tough. It has got to be gritty. It's got to be all out. But they know it's a different beast. But going from Canada to the United States is good for Costa Rica because it's almost like this build up in progression and intensity of the opposition now as they head into the semifinal.
Yep. Honestly, I think it's something that we're going to have to, maybe when the game kicks off, we'll have to take note of and sort of have those prior performances a little bit in the back of our minds, just to sort of see like how Costa Rica is going to try to present themselves against the United States. I think we'll know a lot, I think, in the opening 15 minutes or so. But all love to Costa Rica. I hope they come out and make this a game. There's still, like I said, there's still Olympics on the line. There's still Gold Cup spot on the line. And, they didn't get this far just to hopefully lie down. So I'm eager to see how they line up against the United States women's national team. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what we could see from the United States. But first, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to break all that down for you next.
Hold your breath. Brianna Scurry. She was before Venus and Serena. She broke the mold.
You're looking at a game that already doesn't have a lot of black women, and she's dominating.
One of the greatest we've ever seen in the world.
I experienced life in its hardest.
I was in the depths of hell, and somebody threw me a lifeline.
Bri Scurry is the GOAT. In case you're listening to this episode on one of your podcast services and not watching it as video, we played the trailer for the new documentary, The Only, which officially premiered on the 12th. It is available on Paramount Plus now. If you get a chance, go and watch The Only. It's an incredible story and breaks everything down about the life on and off the pitch of United States Women's National Team goalkeeper Brianna Scurry. Very, very dope. I always love watching that trailer, honestly.
It is huge. It's out now. You can watch it on Paramount Plus. Definitely watch this documentary, especially as you're simultaneously watching the Concacaf W Championship and you're watching the Euros. It's a really cool story. Brianna does a great job. Paramount Plus does a great job. CBS does a great job of telling this story in a very relatable way, in a way that people can learn from this. It gives me the trailer gives me chills. The movie gave me chills. The documentary. Go watch the Only on Paramount Plus. It's out now. Go watch it.
If you're joining us now, just now after our break, joining us here for the second half of the episode, we want to welcome you into the show. Let you know that we're nominated for the Best Female Hosted Podcast category in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. We'd really appreciate it if you showed us some support and head on over to podcastawards.com/app/sign up. Toggle down to the Female Hosted Podcast category and vote for us. The whole process takes just about a minute. You can go ahead and find the link in the description episode if you need it, or you can use the QR code that we have in the video portion of this episode. We're also nominated for the World Soccer Talk Best Podcast. So you can head on over to worldsoccertalk.com and vote for Attacking Third there as well. We really do appreciate the support. As always, United States Women's National Team, Lisa, we got to chat about what we think we might see from them. What's the current state of maybe some players? I think we just got to start perhaps, with the biggest ones. We talked a little bit about in the end of Costa Rica there, talking about Perez coming in and sort of integrating new players in. Ashley Hatch has been pulled from this tournament for the United States Women's National Team, has gone back home with an injury to the back strain, I believe it was. Sam Coffey has been brought in to sort of close out this tournament, to not quite a like-for-like player, coming in and coming out there, something to keep an eye on. And we saw Rose Lavelle take a pretty nasty, crunchy challenge in that final group stage with a studs up collision on her ankle between her and Ovia. So there's some things here in terms of personnel that we have to maybe, I think, talk about first before we talk about what we could see or what we would like to see from this team.
Yes, I think we have to talk about that and look at personnel. I think that's maybe a good place to start, looking at the personnel that the United States has, who they're rotating in and who we'd like to see get the start. I want to start there. Starting with the back and the goalkeepers, we've seen Alyssa Nair get a full game, Casey Murphy get 2 full games, nothing from Aubrey Kingsbury at this point. I still don't think we'll see anything from Kingsbury heading into this semifinal match. Frankly, I've been really impressed with Casey Murphy. I think Vlatko could go with her again in this one. However, if he switches back to Alyssa Nair, I'm not really surprised at all in that point. Between those two, pretty much a toss-up for me. I think Casey Murphy's done a good job, though. So to continue to give her 90 minutes, the start, I think would be well worth it for Vlatko Andonovski and his side. And then the back line, I'm gonna lump all these 5 players together in my lineup here, and then I'll let you go, Sandra. Yeah. I want to see consistency in this back line. I'm hoping that Emily Fox is back. She was out for the last match that the United States played against Mexico. She was on COVID protocol. I'm not entirely sure, as it's only been 3 days, if she's back from that yet. However, if she is, I want her to get the start. Now, if she had COVID, can she breathe? Can she play? That's a big factor heading into this one. Her fitness level coming back into it. We talked a little bit about the heat. It's probably going to be 100 degrees. That comes into everything, I think. But if Fox is available, I would like to see her in the left back position. If not, I want to see Huerta and Kelly O'Hara in those outside back roles. And then in the center back position, I want to see Becky Sauerbrunn and Naomi Girma. I think Girma did a fantastic job. I think that she is the future of this team, and playing with Becky and leaning on Becky is incredibly important. It's no knock against Alana Cook. I just think that the ceiling for Girma at this point is higher than Cook's, just based on where she is, how many caps she has under her belts compared to Alana Cook. And honestly, the partnership between Girma and Sauerbrunn, I really like that. And maybe even like a Cook and a Gurma, but I want Gurma to get the start in this back line.
Yeah, I hear you. Of course we're starting with defense, right? That's that's our bread and butter. That's where we like to shine the spotlight on first. Listen, I'll fully expose us. We didn't think there was going to be rotation at the goalkeeper position going into that final group stage, Lisa. We were like, there's no way that's
got to
be
there.
And here comes and Andonovsky and company. And they are like, actually, yes, there's going to be Casey Murphy in that. So I'm a little curious if we're going to see her get a consecutive start, right? Because we saw her get that first start, then they brought in Nair, then they brought in Murphy again. Are they going to give a back-to-back start for Murphy in the semifinal of this competition? I'm still a little unclear, a little unsure. Is the mentality to perhaps allow Alyssa Nair to play in a final? Should they go ahead and advance? Like, are they gonna? Is the idea potentially still they're going to meet Canada in this championship final, and we want to see Alyssa Nair there and that one? Perhaps, I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised, and I also wouldn't be opposed to seeing Casey Murphy get the start in this one if this ends up being a match where they want to play things out that way. I'm with you in terms of seeing the center back pairings. I would like to see Cook and Girma once more. Quite frankly, I really enjoy what we've been seeing out of Naomi Girma this tournament. I think she's unlike maybe some other players in this competition. We've talked a lot about how this roster is one that's been composed of mostly an expanded player pool. We've seen younger players in positions that maybe we didn't anticipate seeing during this time of the year. But I think Naomi Girma, more than some of these other players, more than a Smith, more than a Pugh, more than some other players in the midfield, more than anyone else, has sort of come in and reintegrated themselves into this senior national team and has been asked a lot of. It's not an easy task to sort of get your number called up ahead of a very important tournament, a World Cup qualifying tournament, and not only get your number called, but be asked to perform and delivered under like very intense circumstances. So the fact that she's already got minutes under her belt in this tournament and has sort of seamed in flawlessly is an absolute delight. It has been a joy to watch Girma grow throughout this tournament. You're not seeing nerves from a player like this, was not intimidated by the bright lights of going up against Mexico in front of Mexican fans. And I would like to see her get the start in this one as well. Now, who her center back partner is going to be, not too sure. If they're going to put in a Sauer, we're not too sure if they're going to put in we'll see what happens. But I know for sure I would like to see Girma there. And I think if you're going to be talking about knockout rounds, I'm just going to jump up into maybe the front forward line here. I think you absolutely have to give a look or a nod to Alex Morgan. She went a long time in that Mexico game as well. Unsure like what that's going to look like in this semifinal. I think Rapinoe is someone who's been coming off of the bench for them and will continue to do so. But I'm with you as well too in terms of the outside back position. I don't know if we're going to see an Emily Fox. It's unclear in terms of what the protocol is. Is it due to testing, or is it false negative or false positive? Is it some asymptomatic showing symptoms? I think 3 days might not be enough if it's the latter of that. So we'll see what happens there. But again, if she's out, I would not mind seeing somebody like Sofia Huerta perhaps get an opportunity to get into this match as well, and sort of see what that looks like moving forward. And I also, I want to see this continued development between Huerta and Purse. I think when they have found themselves on the pitch at the same time together, there's been a very kind of special chemistry. It's very early, but you can see it brewing. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. Those are some players that I definitely do want to see hopefully, fingers crossed, in the starting 11. But I'm not the coaching staff, Lisa. I'm not the coach, so we'll see.
Well, one day, Sandra, you and I, assisting co-coaches, co-head coaches of the team, and we'll get to put our lineup out there. I agree with Alex Morgan in the front line. I think she deserves the start. I double, triple agree with Midge Purse and how she's been playing with Sofia Huerta in behind her. So this is kind of where my brain is going. If Huerta starts, so if Fox is not available, my starting lineup would be O'Hara and Sofia Huerta in the back line. And if Sofia Huerta starts in the back line, I think Purse should be starting in front of her. So it's a little bit of a trickle effect. However, if it's Emily Fox, I think he's going to go with Kelly O'Hara in the back line as well. So then maybe no Purse in that front line. And maybe they come on together, or Sofia Huerta and Purse rotate on together, and then they play in that vertical line. I think Alex Morgan deserves the start in that center striker 9. Especially because there's no one else. Ashley Hatch has gone home. We saw Taylor Korniak rotate into that position, which I think she can do, and she has done, and she will be successful in that center striker number 9 role. If that's where they need her to play, she'll do it. I like Korniak a little bit better in the midfield. I think she has great foot skills and she can flick the ball on, but I think the ball at her feet and her combination play with Morgan in front of her is much more lethal than her playing in that number 9 striker. As it goes for the other 2 forwards in the front line, I really want to see Trinity Rodman get time. I don't think she'll get the start against Costa Rica. Again, I think it'll be Midge Purse if Huerta's in the back line. I think Sophia Smith has done a nice job, maybe even outplayed Mallory Pugh in what we've seen. But I could see it being Pugh and Smith and Alex Morgan in that front line. I like that, and I like what we're seeing there, but not entirely sure about the health of Fox, and that kind of is the trickle effect of how this is going to outplay throughout this game. But I want to see Trinity Rodman get minutes, come in perhaps 45-minute mark. I think it really depends how the first half goes. We saw that in the last match for the United States against Mexico. Vlatko Andonovski wanted his younger players to problem solve, to figure it out as they were going on the field, not just pull them out, not just rotate a Megan Rapinoe in at halftime to get things going and to spark what needs to happen on the pitch. He wanted his newer generation players to figure it out. They didn't, right? I mean, it took them a little bit longer to figure it out. And ultimately, as things started to open up, it came down to veterans. I mean, Christy Mewis scoring the goal and the ball coming in from Rapinoe on the corner kick. So I don't know if we'll see rotation at the 45-minute mark. It just depends on how that first half goes. But I want to see Rodman get time. Now the midfield. Looking at this midfield, I have a question for you about this. Is Andy Sullivan going to start? We saw her start the last match against Mexico. No? Who will start in the number 6?
Probably Lindsay Herrera. That's what they've been doing. They've been running Lindsay Herrera out there endlessly, and we've seen the tape around her knee slowly disappear. But I'm not too sure how she's feeling. On that knee, quite frankly. I just don't see it. I think, especially because that game against Mexico was far more of a grind than they anticipated it to be. And because of it being such a grind, I do not think that they start Andy Sullivan in this one. Although, again, this team has been dealing with some injuries, and there hasn't been 100% clarity on the state of those. And we've talked about that on this show before. We just don't believe that we're actually going to get a full diagnosis or a full, report on what these injuries mean until this tournament is over, quite frankly, because that's typically how it goes in high stakes competitive events like this. There is no actual revelations of the severities of certain injuries until things are at their conclusion.
So no Andy Sullivan in the start. What about Sam Coffey? Will we
I was
see?
Gonna say, is this the game where we see Sam Coffey? Is that why you bring in a Sam Coffey in light of losing a center striker? I don't know. I'm baffled sometimes.
I don't think Coffey's going to start. I
know the mentality, I think, in bringing in a Coffey is that you're adding depth to this midfield that has clearly been navigating some struggles in terms of an injury or two or three. And coming off of that game against Mexico, where, again, it was a bit more of a grind than they anticipated. Andy Sullivan is one of those players that we refer to when we're talking about dealing with some injury, as well as Lindsey Herrera. And we can only assume now a Rose Lavelle in that picture as well. So you're talking about three players who would maybe in a knockout round game be your typical starters in a tournament like this, as they've been called up. But I'm not too sure what that looks like against Costa Rica, or what the rotation it looks like. And honestly, quite frankly, if Sam Coffey gets minutes in this game, should we really be surprised at this point? Because of the rotation that we've seen from this coaching staff in this tournament, it would be a hell of a moment.
It would be amazing. I mean, that's why you bring a player like that in. I don't think we're going to see it, though. I don't think Sam Coffey's going to start.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. It would be crazy to bring in a player that didn't initially make the roster and then give them a start in the semifinal of the Concacaf W Championship. So for that reason only, Sam Coffey will not get the start. That would be
listen, I respect
However,
it. I'm keeping that 1% open. I'm keeping that window open 1% at least, because I can't be like, there's been a number of times. There have been a number of scenarios now where we've come on this podcast and we're like, hey, like, we didn't think this was never going to happen. And here and when it happened. I mean, and part of the energy and thinking about bringing in a Coffey was the fact that she was a player that had spent time with this team ahead of this tournament.
Yes.
So has already sort of played with, trained with, been surrounded by, immersed in a little bit in this program. But the other side of that is, if you're not giving, that sort of type of energy to a player like Rodman, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
You're talking about bringing along some of these players who are still new to the team, little by little by little. If Coffey is a player that is dressed for this game, maybe some minutes, but I don't imagine that it's going to be extended by any means. So
if no Andy Sullivan, which I agree with that, I don't know if we'll see Lindsey Herrera start. Christy Mewis will probably get the start in the 6th.
Mewis is the answer, yeah.
Based on injury and what we've seen, Christy Mewis, when she has rotated in, it's been in that defensive midfielder role, that number 6 position. I think we're going to see Andy Sullivan there, honestly. I don't know if we'll see Lindsey Herrera. I think it depends on injury at this point. I mean, ideally, I think the starting midfield, it probably is going to happen that Sam Coffey starts, Sandra. It probably is, because we're talking about it. But in an ideal world, she'd message me. Happen. Yeah, it probably is.
It's like hitting you now. You're like, you know what?
That's why.
The fact that it seems so impossible and we're on a live means that it's probably going to happen.
And that's fine. That's why we're here to talk about it. I'm okay with eating my words. I just think it would be crazy to bring a player in and then start them in a semifinal game. Yes, it all comes down to injuries, but the ideal starting 3 would be, I think, Lindsey Herrera, Rose Lavelle, and Ashley Sanchez for this match, based on their performances throughout this tournament so far. Now, injury comes into that. Rose Lavelle, at this point, we do not know her status of her ankle after that roll. She could have rubber ankles and be fine. Just tape it up a little bit tighter next match, go out there and play. Honestly, I think we could see that. So a Rose Lavelle, and I think Ashley Sanchez deserves a triple start. This will be the 3rd game in a row for her. She started the last 2 for Vlatko Andonovski against Jamaica and against Mexico. And I think she did a tremendous job. Having her in there alongside Rose Lavelle plays to Ashley Sanchez's strengths more so than playing alongside a Lindsey Herrera in that role with an Andy Sullivan. So I think that we'll see Lindsey Herrera. I think we'll see Ashley Sanchez and Rose Lavelle, frankly, get the start in this one, depending on injury, right?
Yeah, if they're able to go, I think that's ideal. I think you want to have this type of, attacking minded kind of midfield going up against, a Costa Rican side that might be, preparing to sort of present you with this sort of mid to low block. Mm-hmm. So I think we're talking ideally, if everything, comes out and plays out well, injuries aside, that's the ideal, type of attack or type of midfield that we want to see aiding the attack in this game. But they're still into this semifinal. A lot of unknowns, I think, but
so many unknowns. Who knows? Maybe Christy Mewis, like, right? If so if
she's been subbing in as the 6, why not give her the start?
I know. See what she can do from the get-go in this match. So I'm still gonna go Herrera, Lavelle, and Sanchez in the midfield. Now, if Lavelle is out, if she's dealing with a bit of an ankle injury and you want her for the championship game, maybe she does get some rest. Who do you think he should start in that position instead?
Oh, man.
Taylor Korniak.
I mean, we saw him bring in Taylor Korniak as a center striker. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, it's unpredictable. I will give it this. I will say this. If not for nothing else, we are officially now, as audiences of this tournament, we are watching this in the knockout rounds, and we are still talking about unpredictable lineups and unpredictability within substitutions in this match. You know, we're already in the semifinal, and it's not been something that we've been able to iron out or say this is what it's going to look like moving forward.
Yeah, I mean,
I would have thought that this would have been. I would have thought that this would have been something that was, ironed out, settled out, going into this knockout round. But that hasn't been the case. It hasn't been the case.
And so maybe we'll see Andy Sullivan actually start in there, and then Lindsay Horan and Ashley Sanchez if Lavelle is injured. I think that rotates things around. Christy Mewis also can play higher, so maybe it would be Lindsay Horan in the 6, Ashley Sanchez, Christy Mewis playing a little bit higher, whether it's that 8-10 attacking midfielder role, and then she can always slot back for Lindsay Horan. They could rotate, right? If Taylor Korniak does rotate into that center midfield role, it could be either for Horan or Mewis, and then the other one, Mewis, can just drop back.
I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. But you know who has actually sometimes played a little bit lower at times for her club is Mallory Pugh. But I don't believe that's going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
If
anything, I think we would see a defender play a bit higher. Maybe he would slot Girma into that.
Oh no! Do you disrupt what she's been doing so far?
No, but what if you don't have any? Well, they have options. They have Christy Mewis to slot in that role because they have more forwards, right? You could throw Trinity Rodman in that center number 9 striker. You can and drop Taylor Korniak into the midfield. You could throw Midge Purse in the back line if you needed to. There are options. There are options.
I think there are options. I think at this point, if it's for me,
and Sandra, maybe
you got to give Christy Mewis a start. I would want to see her in the 6, but I like Christy Mewis is a player that I like higher, quite frankly.
Me too.
And if Lavelle is unavailable for this match, or if the mindset is preserve what Lavelle has to offer for something like the final, why not play Mewis higher and then put Sullivan and Horan back out there and see what they look like? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Maybe we'll see Mewis get the start. I would be happy for that to see, even if she's in the 6, because clearly they're seeing something in the 6 with Mewis there, and she's stepped in and played that 6. Now it's different. It's a different role for her, and she's still adjusting to that. And I mean, the fact that we're talking about this and saying there are options is also a little scary, that it's not solidified.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know what? It's not, though. That's the other thing about this. That's the other thing about this for me. It's actually not that scary because they're just that good. There's been this is like real first world USWNT problems. It's
complete
champagne
problems.
It's complete. There's so many options that we don't know what the team is going to look like, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're going to go out there and they're going to do what they have been doing this entire tournament.
Yep.
This entire tournament. You know, it
Who
doesn't.
knows? Coffee will get the start. Mewis will get the start. We'll
Yeah,
see.
and we're gonna come on here, and there's a very, very likely possibility that we're gonna come right back on this show and talk about how they won and are now going to the final, and none of that's gonna matter anymore.
Yep.
It's just hilarious to me. It's like we're going back and forth, and people have a lot of feelings about it, and they want to, call for Adanovsky's head, and I get it. That's part of talking about sports at its highest level, right? But they are in first place. They've clinched their World Cup. They are going to go up against Costa Rica, who they have a strong history against, and they are likely going to put together a good performance. And it's just not going to matter. We're just going to come back on here and be like, so anyway, that was fun talking about all that, and here they are going to the final. So it's going to be.
It always matters. The conversation always matters because we get to debate about it. People get to join us in the chat and tell us what they think, who's going to be in there. I see people jumping in saying champagne problems. Yes, we appreciate it, honestly.
Chat
yes, Crystal Dunn is so missed, but it matters because we get to speculate on it and talk about it and then see how it plays out and evaluate the players and their performances in those roles and what they were able to do, perhaps being thrown into a different situation than they were prepared for or used to.
So then let's do this. Let's close out this a little not different, but let's close the chapter on this preview, and let's at least put a scoreline on it. Then let's put a scoreline on it. What do you think the scoreline is going to be in this game?
Okay. U.S. is coming off of a 1-0 over Mexico. I say 3-0.
3-0?
3-0.
Okay. I'm gonna go 4. I'll go 4.
You think there'll be a hat trick? There is yet to be one.
That's a good one. Yeah, you did open the show with that.
Hat trick.
No, I think maybe there'll be a brace, but I don't know if there'll be a hat trick.
Okay. I don't think there'll be a hat trick.
I'm gonna say 4-0. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say cozy with that. We do want to close out the episode with a bit of breaking news. A couple of outlets have reported sources saying that Mónica Vergara has officially been fired by the oh my God. Yeah, technically, right? She's officially been fired by the Mexican Federation. They had a press conference today where they announced that the Mexican Federation has fired its sporting director and national teams director, not fully utilizing the words Mónica Vergara has been terminated, but sources via Cesar Hernandez from ESPN ultimately saying that is confirmed, that she is no longer with the Mexican women's national team. It's maybe not a surprise considering Mexico's unfortunate failure to qualify for a second consecutive World Cup. And apparently moving forward from this, it sounds like the Mexican Federation will be looking to go ahead and fill some certain positions. So Vergara has been dismissed along with sporting director Gerardo Torrado and also the men's U20 team coach Luis Perez. So tough times right now coming out Mexican Federation, but we just wanted to keep everybody informed on that. So we'll see, Lisa. We're gonna have to come back on this show and see what's going on with the semifinal and how it shakes out with the United States women's national team against Costa Rica, and see if we were correct in the score lines and of course with the lineups as well.
Yes, we'll see. We'll have to check back in, see what we're doing. I won't be here for the recap. I am taking a day or two off, which I haven't done in a while, so I'm very excited to do this. But don't worry, Sandra will be here. Everyone will still be here. Sandra, maybe I'll text you and let you know what's happening.
I'm going to need to share like your reactions.
Yes, I will. Don't worry. I will have reactions. I will watch the game.
I'm going to need
for the live.
I'm going to need to let the people know when I hop on here with this live. I'm going to need to let them know, like, hey, this is Lisa's thoughts and what she thought of the game and who was correct on the score.
Who was correct on the scoreline, but don't worry, we still will do a recap. Sandra will be here. It will be produced. We got lovely producers on the CBS Sports side.
Bess is going to join us, so everybody come through and come through and hang out. Thanks everybody for joining us today on Attacking Third. Nominate us for the best female hosted podcast if you can. You can vote for Attacking Third at thepodcastawards.com. You can also go ahead and vote for us for the World Soccer Talk Best Podcast. You can go over to worldsoccertalk.com and vote for us there. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Attacking Third. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to your shows. Follow us on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Attacking Third. We're going to be back tomorrow evening with a full live recap. So tune in for Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman. This was Attacking Third.